What if the flood story wasn't about a moral choice at all? What if it was about erasure? Most of us know the Noah story. One righteous man, God's warning, the ark, salvation through obedience. It's taught as history, as moral instruction, as spiritual truth. But when researchers compared the biblical account to the Sumerian text that came 1,000 years before, they focused on the differences in plot, in theology, in character motivation. They asked the right questions, but they missed the deeper one. Why did later civilizations need to change this story so fundamentally? And more importantly, who benefited from that change? The original Atrahasis epic doesn't present a righteous man chosen for favor. It presents a problem. Humans were created as a labor force for the gods. That's the Sumerian version. We worked. We multiplied. We became loud, restless, demanding. The gods grew frustrated, one proposal after another. Plague, drought, famine. Each time someone, a deity named Enki, finds a way around it. He warns the survivor. He breaks the agreement without technically breaking it. He operates in moral gray spaces. But in the biblical Noah story, gray disappears entirely. Noah is unambiguously righteous. God is unambiguously good. The choice to save him is unambiguously just. Everything clean, everything moral, everything final. Here's what almost no one discusses. The Sumerian version tells us that humans were created as servants, and the only reason any human survived the flood was because a god broke ranks with his peers. The survivor wasn't chosen for righteousness. He was chosen because someone on the inside helped him. In the biblical version, God chose Noah for his virtue. Humans survived because they deserved to. Divinity, not defiance. Morality, not mutiny. If you're an emerging monotheistic religion trying to establish absolute moral authority, the first narrative is a nightmare. It says the gods don't agree. It says the divine order can be subverted from within. It says there are loopholes in cosmic law. We have a deep dive into these hidden connections between texts, waiting for you in the description and the pinned comment. It goes much further than what we can cover here. The real question isn't whether Noah was a real person. It's whether early religious authorities were deliberately reshaping the narrative they inherited. When Judaism and Christianity canonized their texts, they inherited this Mesopotamian flood story, but they couldn't preserve it as it was. A story about divine disagreement, about cosmic deception, about the winner being the one who bent the rules. That's destabilizing. So it became something else. A story about obedience, about divine clarity, about a universe with a single, unambiguous moral order. The genius of this transformation wasn't that it was dishonest, it was that it was selective. Everything true about Noah in the Sumerian text, he was warned, he was saved, he was set apart, remained true in the biblical account. But the context shifted, the meaning inverted. In Sumer, he was spared by a conspirator. In Genesis, he was chosen by the ultimate authority. One detail that survived, one story that remained, but an entirely different message about power, obedience, and divine order. We'll never know if this was conscious or gradual, intentional or organic. But we can see the fingerprints, the layers of interpretation, the way stories change when they move between cultures, between languages, between people who need them to mean something different. And if this happened with Noah, it almost certainly happened with other narratives. The Bible didn't emerge from nowhere. It inherited, adapted, and transformed the mythologies that came before it. Understanding that doesn't diminish faith. It deepens how we read. Because now we're not just reading a story. We're reading a conversation across 1,000 years. We're watching how humanity rewrites its own past to make sense of its present. If you want to explore more about how ancient texts were deliberately reshaped and what that reveals about power and authority, check the description and the pinned comment. There's a detailed resource there that walks you through the primary sources and the scholarship. You can also find more investigation like this in our channel description, where we break down the stories that history rewrote. Thanks for joining us on this investigation into the stories behind the stories. If you're fascinated by the hidden layers of history and the texts that shaped civilizations. Subscribe now and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new episode. We'll see you in the next one.